Today's episode of One Shining Podcast is brought to you by HotelTonight.com. Here's a little insider's travel secret for our friends at Hotel Tonight. There are tons of empty hotel rooms out there just waiting to be booked. That's how Hotel Tonight scores such incredible deals. They team up with awesome hotels to help them sell these rooms, and they pass those savings all along to you, Tate. You get those savings. Not like last resort places, they work with cool, top-rated hotels where you actually want to stay. And even though they're named Hotel Tonight, you can actually book up to 100 days in advance in top destinations and up to a week in advance everywhere else. So if you want to start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels, download the Hotel Tonight app now.
He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
Welcome to one of 30 or so five-star podcasts on the Ringer Podcast Network. We have 5 stars, Tate. We are a 5-star podcast. I didn't think about that as I was doing my rant last week, talking about how there are too many 5 stars. You and I currently have 5 stars. Thank you to everyone who listens and dishes out those 5-star reviews on iTunes. It means a lot to us. We are trying to become the Duke of the podcasting world, where people are just dropping 5 stars on our doorstep, and we don't know what to do with them, Tate.
Yeah, we get ranked preseason number 1. We get a lot of hype surrounding us, and then when it comes down to the pivotal moments where we really need to step up and prove that we're the best, sometimes we let you down. But we'll do our best not to do that. You know, we don't want to be Duke basketball in that sense. But 5 stars, we appreciate it. The reviews, we appreciate it. We addressed this one time. We were bagmen not too long ago. It was probably about a month ago. There were some negative reviews coming in, flooding our feeds, and we asked politely, and we dropped the bag for you guys, and you guys responded accordingly. So we really appreciate that. That's all it's about. It's with the listeners and getting feedback and making it happen. So thanks for that, guys.
We basically just asked the award-winning listeners of Pardon My Take to stop spamming us and giving us 1 stars because
they have you're a friend of the podcast.
Yeah, I go on their podcast all the time, and these idiots they started. Their fan base is militarized to where, like, if anybody does anything, I tweeted something to PFT and Big Cat, and I was like, hey, we're number 1 because, as you and I both know, Tate, because the algorithm put us at number 1.
Thank you, algorithm.
So we took the screenshot, and I was like doing a little playful taunting, and then the award-winning listeners decided to give us 1-star reviews, and then we cried about it, and here we are. We're back. We got 5 stars. I want to start out by saying this, Tate. If I sound a little different, it's if the acoustics are a little off, people listening, maybe in your car, you're like, something's weird. What's going on? What aren't they telling us? I'm going to tell you right now what it is. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, Tate. I am not. I was born and raised in Indianapolis. I have lived my adult life in Columbus, Ohio. That's usually where I podcast from when you and I talk. But today I am in Indianapolis, and you might be asking yourself why. What takes time? What's going on in this man's life? Why is he on the road? Last week he's talking about working out again. He's talking about maybe making a comeback. Now he's going on the road to Indianapolis. I don't know, Tate. I'm just gonna go ahead and not answer those questions, but just thought I would bring that up. That I am in Indianapolis. And,
is this now the Mark? Again,
so.
Is this the Mark Titus mystery? Are we gonna have to start this? We're gonna have to figure this thing out.
You see where I'm taking this, Tate? That there's a conspiracy to be formed. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm in Indy, so this is exciting. I feels like I'm playing a road game here. You know, like I'm in a little different environment. We'll see if I bring my A game. We'll see how this goes.
Do you feel more connected to the? Do you feel more connected to the pulse of college basketball, being in Indianapolis, being in Indiana
I actually
right
do.
now? Good. I'm glad.
I can feel like if I close my eyes and it gets really quiet, I can feel Romeo Langford's heart beating down in New Albany. I can feel a little bit closer to it, and like I feel like he and I are about to sync our heartbeats, and I'm going to like telepathically tell him, Romeo, go to IU, Romeo, Romeo, Indiana, we need you. Yeah, so
I thought it was just Bob Knight telling Romeo Langford that he's garbage and he should have never come to Indiana.
No, Tate, no. Hey, I'm excited. Super Bowl's over.
Yes.
NFL is over. Are you done with GM Street now for the year? Are you finally? The people want to know. Are you finally going to start watching college basketball this season?
The truth of the matter is I have had to watch both, unfortunately, and it's driving me crazy, and no one wants to talk to me anymore because all I can talk about is the NFL or college basketball, and if I talk about anything else, my brain just explodes at this point. But yeah, the NFL happened. The Super Bowl happened. The Eagles the Eagles got the win. Philadelphia, did you see, I mean, we don't want to talk about this too much, but did you just see the reaction of a city for Philadelphia? I mean, I've never seen people behave in such a manner. And I've always had a respect for Philadelphia and what they could do as far as partying. And Sunny in Philadelphia is one of my favorite shows. I remember The Real World when it was in Philadelphia, with the Philadelphia Soul and Bon Jovi. And, there's all these moments in Philadelphia. And then everything that I had in my head prior has been tainted by the fact that I watched a guy eat a piece of horse to celebrate the Super Bowl. And I cannot believe that happened. I can't believe not only did it happen, that people wanted him to do it, and then they wanted to post it online forever. And now I've never seen a bunch of winners eat pieces of shit, but I learned that can happen this weekend in Philadelphia. So that's all I really can say about the Super Bowl.
Listen, Cleveland did it first, by the way. After the Cavs parade, the guy picked it up. And I didn't actually watch the video. I watched the start of the Philadelphia one, and then I realized, why am I doing this? Why am I going to watch this? So I decided to pause it. But the Cleveland one, the guy picks the turd up with his hand and eats it like an apple. Is that what happened? This one, the Philly one, looked like a guy bent over.
Yeah, the guy went down to this one. He didn't even bring it up to his mouth. I mean, which shows a little bit more class. Picking it up and just eating it seems like you've done it before. I didn't know Cleveland did that. I don't watch parades in Cleveland because I can only imagine the debauchery that goes on. But
oh my god, dude, the Cleveland guy. He looked like Stone Cold catching 2 beers. He grabs it and then it looked like he cracked it open and was just biting into it. It looked like he was eating an apple for real. The Cleveland one. So my one Super Bowl thought is that I just want to give a shout. We're gonna give shout outs at the end of the pod like we always do, but I'm gonna go ahead and do one at the beginning, and then we're gonna get to good guy, bad guy, everybody. But I want to give a shout out to Nick Foles for winning the Super Bowl MVP. That's cool, whatever. But in all the post game interviews I saw, which was, let's be honest, the first hour after the game, and then I turned the TV off and went to bed and said, I'm not going to give football another thought until next season. But I saw him mention his basketball career a couple times, and it felt like the way he was doing it, it felt like it was a pointed reason he kept bringing it up. And I don't know what the angle was with this, but I just wanted to give him some love for it was his way of telling America hey, I'm not just a quarterback. I play hoops too. I'm a basketball guy, because he was talking about the trick play, I think, on NBC's studio after the game, after all the celebration. He was talking about the trick play, and he was yeah, I played tight end in high school, but I also played basketball, so I think some of the basketball thing came in and helped me there. It was I went up and was grabbing a rebound, and he kept talking about how he played basketball, and he didn't need to do that. So thank you, Nick Foles, for basically saying I'm a basketball player. I just stepped in and I won the Super Bowl. I'm not even really that good at football, and I was a basketball guy, and I dominated football. So
it's actually genius if you think about it, because he basically downplays the whole situation. He's like, this should have never worked out for me. I was the backup quarterback. Yeah. I'm a better basketball player than I am at football, and I still have reached the highest pinnacle of the sport. So sorry, guys. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the rest of you, but I figured this whole thing out. Also, Alshon Jeffrey, I saw someone was asked, you mentioned the Nick Foles thing, so I went back and watched some of the other interviews leading into the actual Super Bowl, and they asked Alshon Jeffrey, former South Carolina wide receiver, about Nick Foles' basketball ability, and he said he was confident, and I quote, confident that he would beat Nick Foles in basketball. I know Nick Foles was at Arizona, and he played pickup with the 2010 team, the Derek Williams team, and was apparently really good, but I don't know. I still take Alshon Jeffrey. I'm sorry, Nick Foles.
Yeah. But I love the way they frame this, though. If it sounds like people are talking about it what if you guys played real sports? And that's why I like it. As a basketball guy,
to a golfer,
I like it because they're
he can shoot a jump shot? It's oh, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
Keegan Bradley can shoot.
Hey, Nick Foles, congratulations on winning the Super Bowl and winning MVP. But let's talk about are you a real athlete though? Can you play can you play real sports, or is it just this football thing? So I like that. As a basketball snob, that was awesome. I enjoyed that part of it. So anyway, enough with the football. Let's talk about the round ball. Let's talk about the good guys, the bad guys, the Kyle guys. Let's get into it, Tate. Our guys. Let's start with the good guy of the week. I'm going to go first this time. I want to start. I'm going to say my good guy first. It's Bill Self. And it's not just that Kansas lost at home. They've now lost, I think, 3. Have they lost 3 in Fog Allen? They lost to Arizona State,
3
Texas
times.
Tech. Yeah, and now Oklahoma State, and then they lost in Kansas City which was considered a home game, like on the resume, even though it was in Kansas City in the Sprint Center, which, as you pointed out, wasn't even the same state as Kansas. It's in Missouri. But they consider that a home game. So he's technically lost 4 home games this year, 3 in Allen Fieldhouse. But it's not about the loss itself, Tate. It's about Bill Self losing to his alma mater yet again, and this feels like a tradition. It to me, it feels like it happens every year that he loses in Stillwater to Oklahoma State, where, for those of you who don't know, Bill Self played basketball at Oklahoma State back in the 80s. He's an Oklahoma guy. He coached at Tulsa before going to Illinois. But it feels like he loses every year, and then he lost at home this year. And I got to thinking, like, is this just something I put in my head where I make up this fake scenario of Bill Self always dropping games to his alma mater on purpose? Because let's be honest, like, Oklahoma State has a good basketball program. They've gone to they had the 2 national titles back in like the 40s or whatever. They went to the Final Four in 04 with Lucas at the
John
point guard.
Lucas, yes, of course.
Yeah, they've had good teams. They had Eddie Sutton. They have Doug Gottlieb. Everybody loves Doug Gottlieb, right?
Everybody loves Jamison Curry too. I mean, the greatest capitalization of the O of all time.
Right. They have a great. They have, I wouldn't say great. They have a good program, but like, Kansas should not be losing to Oklahoma State this much. So I started thinking, like, is this an actual thing? Am I making this up in my head? I'm definitely not making it up. Bill Self has now lost, Tate, in 9 different seasons since he's been to Kansas, and he got to Kansas in what, like 04? So this is his 15th year, is it?
Yeah.
So 9 out of 15 years, he has lost to Oklahoma State at least once in a season. 9 out of 15 years. And think about, like, some of the teams Kansas had. Like, he's had years where he's lost 3 total games. He's won a national championship. He's had, like, that's Kansas's MO, is they steamroll everybody in the Big 12 and then they lose in the Elite 8. That's the jokes that you make about Kansas, is they only lose like 2 games a year. And as it turns out, one of them always is to Oklahoma State. So Bill Self, very good guy move to throw the alma mater a bone. He did it yet again. 5 of the last 6 years he has lost to Oklahoma State, either at home or away, and he just kept the streak alive. So very good guy move, Tate.
Very good guy move, and it makes sense. We have a bunch of these coaches that have these weird affinities for their former schools or their attachments that they have to those schools. I mean, I'm sure if Calipari played UNCW, he'd have some problems. I know Roy Williams.
Clarion.
Clarion, he'd have some problems. Roy always has problems with Kansas, so it is fitting that Bill Self has problems with Oklahoma State. So it's like a trickle-down effect, I guess. My big takeaway from this situation with Kansas losing at home so much, this is great for Scott Drew. Because Scott Drew right now has lost more in Allen Fieldhouse than Bill Self has. So if Bill Self continues on this trajectory, then Scott Drew will get away from that and continue to have the chance to be an elite coach. We hope. We can only hope.
I think he passed him now, right? I think Bill Self has now lost more than Scott Drew in Allen Fieldhouse.
Is it official?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's official.
Congratulations, Scott Drew.
Because I think it happened like the Arizona State game was the clincher or something. But I think Baylor still has to go to Kansas this year.
Oh, so we have a chance.
I've lost track. I've lost track of Baylor so far this season, but yeah, the Scott Drew, for the longest time, for those not in the know, the joke was like Scott Drew has lost more games in Allen Fieldhouse than Bill Self has, and Scott Drew only plays in Allen Fieldhouse once a year, and Bill Self plays in there all the time. But not anymore. So Bill Self, very good guy, throwing the alma mater a free win every year. I'll be honest, I'd probably do the same thing, Tate, if I was coaching. When I get my head job here in the next few years, you and I are going to campaign. We're going to use, that's what, again, this podcast is for. That's the only reason we have the pod, is because we're trying to campaign to get a job somewhere. Mm-hmm. When it happens, I have a feeling you and I are gonna drop games to Carolina and Ohio State like crazy. And let's be honest, like if we get a job coaching like Valparaiso or something, and we lose Ohio State, it's gonna be because we were just being nice to them. It's not going to be because they were better than us. We could totally kick their ass. So,
and we're just happy after the game. We're just smiling. You know, all things are okay. It was like our kids just didn't show up today, but I'm proud of those guys in the other locker room. It's a class program over there. Yeah, bad matchup. You know, we just didn't make shots today. Matchup. That's the whole point.
Didn't make shots. Who's your good guy of the week?
I had a lot of time and a lot of struggles with figuring out who my good guy of the week was. You were calling me unprepared.
Dude, what the fuck is wrong? Like, we literally, this is the only segment we do. This is like, you have one job on this podcast, Tate.
I would say that I was just indecisive and trying to really, hone in on the fact of who deserves this, accomplishment for the season. And I've gone back and forth, and I've decided that it has to be the artist formerly known as Jason Williams, and not that Jason Williams, now Jay Williams on ESPN. And it was because he almost became a good guy because of what I think may have happened here. But Jay Williams was on last night at halftime between the Oklahoma-West Virginia game. And they go to the studio, they're doing the same roundup where they're talking about all the big games this week, big matchups, promoting all the games on the network, on ESPN, yada, yada. And they asked Jay Williams about Carolina Duke, which is Thursday night. People forget. First game of the season in Chapel Hill. Best rivalry in sports, as you know. And Jay Williams is asked about this game, a man that is a part of the rivalry. And he says, and I quote, "It is the third most important game of the night." Mark Titus. This is what Jay Williams says. It's the third most important game of the night. And he says he just really doesn't care about the two teams this year. They haven't really, caught any storylines. They're not really a part of the conversation, and America's not tuning in. This is what he says.
Ooh.
And this is...
Do you take this as... So my question to you is he doing a Duke defector thing where he's like, I don't want to be associated with Duke, or is this the opposite where he's doing the not a rivalry thing where he's like, I don't even honestly, like I played at Duke, but like I never thought of Carolina as a rival because we're above that. Duke is better than that. We don't really care that much.
He would be sadly mistaken if he were to say something as egregious as that. But regardless, he does say this, and we know that it's trying to be contrarian. We know that it's trying to be different. We know that it's trying to capture headlines, in college basketball. Jay Williams says Carolina Duke, not that big of a deal. And sure, there are times when Carolina won 8 games in 2002 or 2003 when that may have been the case. But let me just tell this, Mark Titus. He was trying to say that your alma mater, Ohio State, Purdue, is a bigger game than Duke, North Carolina on Thursday night. And that's like saying that people care more about the AFC title game because it's Blake Bortles versus Tom Brady. Sure, there's more players that may capture the zeitgeist at the moment. Sure, it may matter more. You may want to watch it and talk about it more. But that doesn't mean it's more important than the Super Bowl matchup. That doesn't mean that. That doesn't work like that, Jay Williams. You got Duke, North Carolina. You got the defending national champions playing the most talented team in the country. If only the coach could get them to play together, maybe they could win like the most talented team in the country. That's something that we'll figure out this week. But for Jay Williams to say this and to be a part of it, it's the ultimate good guy move. And the good guy sense is he's trying to be objective. He's trying to appeal to the mass audience. But you know what the mass audience likes? They like hate. They like rivalries, and they like people talking shit back and forth, and that's what he should be doing. He should be saying Carolina's terrible. They shouldn't be ranked. He should be doing anything than what he's doing, which is trying to downplay the fact that this is the most heated game in college basketball, and that's why he's my good guy of the week.
You seem very insecure about Duke-Carolina rivalry. You seem like the guy who, it wasn't even that long ago that people were talking about Kentucky, Louisville had passed Carolina Duke. Is Carolina Duke still the best rivalry?
Hey, Mark Titus, you tell me when Carolina Duke plays at 12 o'clock on a Friday in December, you tell me when if it matters. That's when we'll figure it out. When ESPN stops making all their money off this game, we'll figure out if it really matters.
So my question, is Ohio State Purdue a better rivalry than Carolina Duke? You have to look at you really have to crunch
You said
the
like
numbers,
Seth Greenberg. Seth Greenberg was right there with him. He's like, yeah, you might be right, Jay. It's like, please.
The funniest part is that Jay Williams is not a company man. Duke Carolina is on ESPN. This is their big property. Trae Young is their big property now, but forever it was like the two things that ESPN had with college basketball was the Big East and Carolina Duke game. They play like one on CBS now, right? Like, is it the last one of the year they seem to play the Duke Carolina game on CBS?
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I just associate when you say ESPN college basketball to me, when I was growing up, it was like Big East games and Duke Carolina. Dickie V calling the Duke Carolina game, and now he's been moved off the Duke Carolina game, and it's very sad. But so Jay Williams, not even a company man, because the Ohio State Purdue game is on Big Ten Network, which is not an ESPN company. So I respect the objectivity. If we're being honest,
Titus, shut the fuck up. No, you don't. That is the most ridiculous thing that you could ever say. First of all, you're on your own network that you're talking on right now that's giving you a platform to just say whatever the hell you want to. You're a part of the rivalry, so therefore you're inherently on yourself. And you change your name from Jason to Jay. Never forget, this guy changed his name after college. I can't stand it. It infuriated me.
Does anybody care about? I mean, my question, Tate? Does anybody honestly care though? I mean, Carolina sucks. Duke isn't really. We have Purdue is undefeated. They're one of the 3 best teams in the country.
Oh.
You have Ohio State, who is, I mean, probably one of the top 6 or 7 teams in the country. If we're being honest, I mean, like if you take away, as we've said before, the Carolina game was
loss to Carolina, on a neutral court.
You take away the loss to Carolina was Carolina was hitting shots. The loss to Penn State was Penn State was hitting shots. Clemson was a bad matchup. Chris Holtman didn't want to. Chris Holtman was scared to play against because it was too many feelings. That was a game of feelings. And then who else did we lose to? Gonzaga. We were playing on the West Coast at the game tipped off at 1:30 in the morning East Coast time in freaking Portland. Of course we lost to Gonzaga. If you really think about it, Ohio State should be undefeated. Purdue basically is undefeated. Hasn't lost a game in America. I'm with Jay on this one. Like I have to be given a reason to care about Duke, Carolina. Good luck buying the Big Ten Network
and trying to watch this game, everyone. Good luck. I hope you can find it. Maybe you can find a nice stream online.
Lest anyone, Tate, I gotta clarify because all your friends get mad at me whenever I make fun of North Carolina. Tate's friends, I'm kidding. Calm down. I'm kidding. It's a joke. We're joking. Yeah, that's bad. Carolina Duke is always awesome. I'm very excited for the Carolina Duke game. I always have been. Into the Carolina Duke game. I was very much on the Carolina Duke side when the Kentucky stuff started popping up when Kentucky and Louisville had their run a few years ago. So you're right. This is bad. That's a bad move by Jay Williams.
I just don't know what he's doing. That's why he's a good guy because like he deserves to get fired for that.
You bring up a good point. Like I don't really understand what the purpose of doing. I guess maybe he's just being objective. Maybe that's really it. Like maybe he truly believes that Ohio State. By the way, like it pains me to say it. I sort of feel like Ohio State is plateaued a bit, and they're not like the surprise anymore. And people, I mean, we're still playing pretty well, playing decently well. But I'm very, very nervous about this Purdue game going on the road to Purdue. Like. I don't know. I don't even know what the spread is, but I'm taking Purdue to cover, and that's me being objective. Like I'm very nervous that this is going to be the wake up call, and it's going to be like, oh, so Ohio State really isn't one of the top 10 teams or top 15, whatever we're ranked now.
But you have to say that
if I was a neutral fan, I would care very much more about Duke Carolina for sure. So
I'm not saying that Purdue Ohio State is not a great game. It's just don't try to do that just to stir the pot. You know what I mean? That's the whole point. Like you're just saying that to say that just because it's a controversial thing to say, and it's just not even in the realm. Like I don't think Ohio State Purdue wants you to say that. Like that just puts them in a weird spot. They're like, hey, we're just playing over here, just having a great game. You know, we're not trying to be a part of this conversation.
Purdue doesn't. No, I mean we've talked about Purdue fans before. They want all the respect in the world. They want everyone to tell them how awesome they are, but at the same time to do it like secretly because they don't want Purdue expectations to be.
It's the same way with Virginia. They're the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, and Virginia fans love and hate that every game they play is on ACC Network, which drives me nuts as well, by the way, is that like you can't watch Virginia play ever because they're never on real TV because no one wants to watch Virginia. And Virginia fans bitch about that, but then as soon as you start putting all their games on in prime time on ESPN, you got College Game Day there and all that shit, then they're like, whoa, this is too much. This is too much. We've overshot it. Rein it back in. Rein it in. All right, let's talk about the Duke Carolina game a little more later. Like I actually do want to talk to you about what you expect coming, other than just ripping on Jay Williams. I actually do want to like do a quick little preview, whether you think Luke May is going to just roast Duke in the high post of that zone, etc. But in the meantime, we first have to get to the important stuff, the bad guys of the week. My bad guy, I don't know if you saw this story. Your boy, a guy you're a huge fan of, Rick Barnes, head coach of Tennessee. Tennessee self-reported a violation last Thursday because Barnes was apparently using his own salary out of his own pocket, his own money that he was being paid, and then funneling it off to one of his assistants who he felt like was being underpaid, which is sort of a good guy and a bad guy move at once, Tate. That is like, it was hard to classify. I went with bad guy because it is a violation. It is an instance of a coach dropping illicit money to somebody to commit an NCAA violation. But yeah, what a story. Rick Barnes.
I would say
funneling money.
It's a bad guy with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't know. He didn't know this was wrong. I'll be honest. I didn't know this was a violation, but also it makes total sense as to why this is a violation. Like, for example, if say I don't know, a school like I can't think. Hold on. Give me a second, Tate. Let's just say Duke, for example. Let's just go with Duke. That's the first one that came to mind. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was no reason for picking Duke. It just kind of I was thinking of schools. We were just talking about Duke, Carolina. I'm just gonna say Duke. Like theoretically, a school like Duke, it doesn't have to be Duke, but we'll just again for purpose of this exercise, we'll say Duke. Maybe perhaps they pay their coach just an absurd amount of money, like maybe like $9 million a year or something.
Let's say 10.
Yeah, like or even 10. Yeah, like it's a theoretical. We can make the numbers whatever we want it to be, and then the coach could then skim some of that money off the top and give it to one of his assistants. Yeah, who could then take the money and drop duffels of cash to land 5-star recruits. If this happened at like. It's maybe not as big of a deal at a public school because you kind of have to report.
Oh yeah, it's public record
where all the money's
right.
going. Yeah, like you get the Freedom of Information Act. You could be like, hey, how much are these guys making?
Put a request.
But
in
a private school, you just kind of funnel the money around. No one can really follow the money. So that's probably why it's an NCAA violation. Because could you imagine if coaches were doing that? If
that's
schools
insane.
were doing that?
I can't believe that.
That would be chaos.
That's shocking.
That would be chaos. So, yeah. So I think it's a good thing that this is a rule that's been put in place. But It's kind of a good look for Rick Barnes, though. Do you think he like purposely did all this, like leak the story? Like this kind of feels like a PR move where you're like a celebrity donates money to a charity or takes a kid to prom or whatever.
That's what I was going to say. It kind of feels like, back in the day, you'd get these coaches, they'd play in these golf tournaments. It would be like, Frank Martin goes down and he plays in a golf tournament in Orlando for ALS. And there's some pictures of Rick Barnes and, Frank Martin and all these guys, and they're fighting this disease and all this stuff. But now, like, the way to do that and to curry favor with people was be like, oh, he really is a good guy. Rick Barnes has really changed the way that he does things. He's going to self-report a violation. What a smart move. What a good man move. And that's why it's like hard to say he's even a bad guy, because he witnessed something that was happening, with being a bad guy and decided to write it and put it out there to the world so that he can get ahead of any story. Because now if you write something and you're saying Tennessee, something's going on with the NCAA, they're looking into some stuff. You're like, but Rick Barnes, he self-reports violations. This is what he's known for. Yep. Look at the track record.
I knew something was up when the picture accompanying this story was Rick Barnes with an oversized check handing it to his assistant, and they were both looking at the camera smiling. That's when I knew. I was like, wait a second. Is this a PR stunt? Hang on just a second.
Where'd they get that
something
big
looks
check?
Fishy with this one. Wait a second.
It's like Happy Gilmore.
So yeah, that's my bad guy of the week, Rick Barnes. Congratulations, Rick. You are a bad guy who spun it into a good guy, and that's very hard to do in this business.
I will say, if you had told me in 2010, 2011 range that Rick Barnes would still be, in the lexicon of conversation to be a bad guy in 2018, I would say things had gone really right for Rick Barnes. So congratulations to Rick Barnes for hanging around. My bad guy of the week is a name you're probably unfamiliar with unless you watch the college football playoff and you saw when Ohio State got snubbed for Alabama. His name is Kirby Hocutt, and he is the Texas Tech athletic director. And I say this as the bad guy of the week because not only is the Red Raiders men's basketball program number 7 in the nation, they have the men's baseball program, women's tennis, men's track and field, and they all own top 10 rankings. Texas Tech is the only Division I school in the nation to boast that distinction. And I just had to say this as a segue to talk a little bit about what's been going on with Texas Tech. I know we haven't covered them, but so much. A little bit we've given them coverage with Chris Beard and whether he can actually grow a beard. We still haven't figured that out yet. But Keenan Evans, I think he is now garnering enough praise. I know he's on the Wooden Award watch list now. With the final 20 players that was listed, he's on the Cousy. He's a point guard. He's on the Cousy list. Keenan Evans is something else, and I don't know if we haven't really locked in and discussed him too much. He's averaging like 19 points a game, 4 assists a game, and he's averaging like 28 over the past 4 games. He's been on this ridiculous tear. They have a bunch of young guys on that team that are now moving into the starting lineup. I don't know. Texas Tech is a really scary team that I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting about, and this just segued perfectly for me to say that Kirby Hocutt's figuring something out there. It's sort of what Texas A&M did, a few years ago with Johnny Football and what Eric Hyman did when he left South Carolina and went to Texas A&M. They just got on this little roll with all their athletic programs, and it's what Kirby Hocutt's doing with Texas Tech. So that's my bad guy of the week.
I had no idea he was Texas Tech's athletic director. Yep. I know the guy's name because you're right. I remember the college football play. Remember the rant you and I went on? We were talking about all the names in college football, the Kirbys and the Jimbos and the Dabos.
I love a good Kirby.
But you're right. Texas Tech is the thing, and Texas Tech fans are going to be mad at me for saying this. So let me finish my thought before you pause the podcast and yell at me. Lubbock, Texas feels like it's in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing there. And why would anybody want to go there? And what a shithole that must be, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't imagine why they'd be mad at me for saying that. By the way.
Yes, can't believe that.
But one, I think I've never been to Lubbock, but everything I've heard says it's an awesome college town and it's actually kind of cool. It is a small, like, there's no major city really within however many hundreds of miles of Lubbock, because it's like it's up in by the Oklahoma Panhandle? What do you call that in Texas? Like is it the Texas Panhandle? The little point of Texas that like jumps up at the I don't know.
I guess that's what you call it.
The western, you know what I'm saying?
I've never been
it's
to
like
Lubbock.
Up there, like there's like nothing really up there. So like you would never, basically like neutral fans would never ever think that Texas Tech would ever be good at anything, because it's just like, how could you possibly? And for a while there, I'll be honest, like I thought, again, I'm coming back around. Calm down, Tate. We're going to get to the good part. I want to get to the compliment. Hang on. Like I thought of Texas Tech as like that's why they were hiring Bob Knight, and that's why they were hiring Tubby Smith. That's why they were hiring Billy Gillespie, is because they were trying to just get these like big name guys to kind of generate some sort of buzz, because they sure as shit can't do it any other way. But they've sort of figured it out there. You're absolutely right. Like it's become a thing. Like I actually think this has staying power. I know Chris Beard has had like 6 different jobs in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So maybe he leaves, but he, as we've recapped before, he's got Texas Tech blood in him, and he's been around Lubbock forever. So I think he's going to stay there, but I think this is like sustainable. I think Texas Tech's going to be very good. And as for this specific team this year, they have the Kemba Walker recipe set up with Keenan Evans. I think this has like the play great defense and have the one guy who can carry you sort of vibe going. That's not to say that I think Texas Tech is going to win a national title or even go to a Final Four, but the pieces are there. Yeah, this is an exciting team. They have their stretches where they suck ass on offense, and that sort of worries me. But I don't know. We'll see.
I'm a big fan. I mean,
did I make a compliment? Did I come back around to the compliment? The compliment is this: it is actually a good college town from everything I'm hearing, and I think this is sustainable. And I think this perception that Lubbock is in the middle of nowhere and no one would ever want to go there, I think we're starting to tear down those walls and kind of like make it sort of some sort of destination. So that's the compliment. All right, as you were, Tate.
Highest hoops ranking since 1996. You know, like that's pretty good. Way to go, Chris Beard.
That's good. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
So that's it. Good guy, bad guy. Do we have a Kyle guy update? Virginia's rolling. I mean, like what?
Yeah.
Kyle guy. I saw he had 22 against Louisville last week. Virginia almost gave 2 Tonys to Syracuse at Syracuse. I think Syracuse had 21 points in the first half and like 23 in the second. Which, like, if you can do a double Tony in a game, oh my god. That would be wild. For those who are missing out, I dubbed the Tony when Virginia holds a team under 20 points and a half. So they almost gave Cuse the double Tony, but I don't know. I don't really know what else is going on in Kyle Guy's life. Do you have any like social media bullshit that you want to fill me in on?
No, not really. Just more that Kyle Guy's having a great time. They're winning a lot of games. I know when they beat Duke, they went to Cold Stone Creamery on the way home. That was the big celebration. Kyle Guy was super excited about that. It's just very Virginia basketball. You know, there's just a bunch of happy-go-lucky young kids that are, you know, excited about playing in the collegiate system, and you know they're just trying to get back and get their studies handled. So, congratulations to Kyle Guy.
Do you think do you think they have a realistic shot at run? I mean, they obviously have a realistic shot. I don't know why I said that. Do you think they are going to run the table in the ACC regular season?
No, I think
here's
I think at
Miami.
Who's
going to trip them up?
I think when we predicted the Duke loss at Miami, Duke had already had their big loss, you know, and they were set up to get a win there. And we misjudged it. It's going to be Miami beating Virginia this year. That's going to be their big win to help to jump them back in the national spotlight. And it makes sense. I mean, going on the road in Florida to go at Florida State, then they have Virginia Tech, and then they go at Miami. Those are 3 pretty tough games, tough physical teams back to back to back. I can see them losing to Miami, and maybe Miami just goes on a tear and just scores a bunch of points, and by a bunch of points against Virginia, I mean like 62, and Virginia has a bad shooting day, and they take that loss. But I could see them just going all the way. I mean, what if they did? I think people still wouldn't talk about them in the right light. Everyone still talks about Virginia like it's the 2014, 2015 teams that's going to peak too early and lose early in the tournament. So hopefully people will buy in soon.
So the rest of their schedule, just so we fill the listeners in, as you said, at Florida State versus Virginia Tech at home, at Miami, Georgia Tech at home, at Pitt, at Louisville, and Notre Dame at home to close out the regular season.
Not a bad schedule.
What about No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's totally doable. What about the Pitt game? Wouldn't that be something? If that's Stallings' one ACC win, if that's at Pitt, Virginia at Pitt, oh my God! And Stallings like they win, and he just runs out on the court. Do you think Stallings would pour the Gatorade on himself?
Yes.
If there's any coach in college basketball who would give himself the Gatorade
Absolutely.
shower.
100%. And push down like 3 of his players to go get the Gatorade cooler for himself.
Get out of my way. I did this. And then the post-game press conference, he's just like, yeah, I coached a hell of a... It's just all about him. That would be so fucking awesome.
Coach Stallings, you hurt 2 beat reporters on the way to the Gatorade cooler. What do you have to say for yourself? I have to say that I have a great swing. I'm a quick-footed player, and I got over there and I got a nice win for us. Pitt basketball is back. I'm back. It's stall ball time. Let's do it.
They win. They beat Virginia. Virginia's undefeated. Pitt hasn't won an ACC game yet, and they beat Virginia. And the students don't rush the court. They all just like roll their eyes. They're like,
they boo.
Oh, God damn it! They're like, God damn it! Now they're gonna give Stallings an extension for this. Oh, and you just hear like collective groan. And the Pete like,
it'd be great if Stallings started saying trust the process and acted like they were tanking for a draft pick. That would be the best. Funny too. That'd be great. He just doesn't get it.
Catchphrase.
He's like, don't we get like the best player in the ACC that's coming in if we just suck?
He's like, or he just starts throwing out like, be patient. I have a 7-year plan that I'm working on. Just be patient, everybody. And
once I get my guys in.
Let me get my guys. It's like, Kevin, you've been coaching here for 6 years. And he's like, yeah, but like I inherited the guys. So then I had to get the first recruiting class, like weren't really my guys. They were like kind of the leads that we already had from the other guys. And I just need a little more time, and we'll get this figured out.
Did you see? Did you see at the end of the Carolina game when they asked Kevin Stallings? This is legitimate. They asked him about Cam Johnson, Carolina basketball player now, transferred from Pitt after 2 years, graduated early. That's the guy that Stallings tried to block to get into Carolina. We've talked about this on the podcast before, obviously. But they asked Kevin Stallings after the game. They asked him about Cam. And he starts talking about Cameron Davis, who's on Pitt. He's one of their other wings, who's funny enough from Kernersville, North Carolina. So he starts talking about Cam Davis. And then they followed up and they ask him again. They're like, no, about Cam Johnson. Did you have any words with him? And he lies and said he told him good game. And then they asked Cam Johnson. They're like, Coach Stallings said that he said good game to you after the game, and Cam Johnson's like, no, I didn't speak to him after the game. He didn't speak to me.
I love it.
So,
oh my God,
good job, Kev.
What would we do without Kevin Stallings? In all honesty, back to the original point, I think I see your at Miami game as the one Virginia might lose. I'm thinking it's going to be at Louisville. I think Louisville's going to be on the bubble.
That's a good one too.
Louisville already is sort of on the bubble, and I think Louisville has that circled. They always play Virginia well, it seems like. So I'm calling my shot there. I see your Miami thing though. You could talk me into that one, but I'm thinking Louisville's my pick.
But those are the two teams. I mean, even Florida State too. Like those guys are all on the bubble or around the bubble, like in that same range. Like the Lenardi first 4 in, first 4 out, whatever it is. So if they get a big win over Virginia, that really catapults them into the conversation again. So I can see it happening. Should we talk about actual games and actual basketball games that happened this weekend?
Let's recap some of the games. All the Blue Bloods are losing, Tate. This is there are no great teams, is what everyone's saying, which is another way of saying the teams that we like to see be good aren't as good, and they keep losing. Kansas, Kentucky, and Duke all lost on the same day. And we have teams like Purdue and Virginia and Villanova at the top of the like what and Texas Tech and Auburn. Like what the hell happened? What the hell's going on? We can't have that. We need the Blue Bloods back. So yeah, let's talk about some of these Blue Bloods that are losing. Let's just do Duke. I mean, like people hate us because we talk about Duke too much, but we have to talk about Duke. They lose to St. John's. Chris Mullen is 0-11 in the Big East. huge win for the Big East Conference. 0-11 in the Big East and beats the second best team in the ACC probably. First of all, I'm going to put you in an awkward position where you have to defend Duke because Duke basically just proved that the ACC is terrible. So I'm putting you in a position, Tate, where you have to defend this Duke loss as not embarrassing because this kind of is embarrassing for you. Yeah.
Well, the problem is, so the way that this game was set up, it was a rivalry game, right? And then those games you can throw everything out in a rivalry game. You know, it's New York.
The record book,
yeah, throw it out. It's New York's team versus New Jersey's team in Madison Square Garden. Who's gonna take home court advantage? Who's gonna prove that they own the state and in the Mecca? And Chris Mullin and New York's basketball team just got away with one. They had a great game. Shamari Pons, straight out of Brooklyn. I mean, before we even get to the game, just having Gus Johnson call the game and Shamari Pons takes it to the basket and goes, Brooklyn's finest. You know, just those calls that we get with Gus Johnson. It made the game seem like it mattered so much more than it did because it was basically an exhibition game, and St. John's put it all together. Shamari Pons was amazing. He had like 33 and 7. Grayson Allen was terrible. I mean, god-awful in the Garden.
What the hell?
What's going on with him?
What is happening to Grayson Allen, Tate? He has completely disappeared, and not even in the good way, not even in like everyone can point and laugh at him and be like, this is so enjoyable that Grayson Allen sucks now. He's like just not even – I mean, he went 1 for 7 against St. John's, which I guess is bad. You can laugh at that, I suppose, but he's not like – I don't know how to explain it. It's messing with my emotions because I'm not enjoying his misery as much as I should be, but the man is absolutely terrible this year.
What is going to happen when we all come full circle on these past 3 years of Duke basketball, right, with Grayson, after winning the title his freshman year, where we can say and point to the fact that they had the preseason number 1 team last year, a team that was, declared as possibly one of the greatest basketball, college teams put together as far as talent, and they lose in the second round of the tournament. And Grayson sort of splits that team up between Kennard and Tatum. And then, okay, we're going to run it back. Grayson's going to come in, be the senior leader for all these young guys again. And now we're getting in the same position where the team is sort of split, you can tell. And Grayson is, trying to be the front man, the face of the whole brand, the face of the Duke basketball program, do all the little things, but he's forcing everything. And it reminds me a lot of Greg Paulus his senior year, your boy GP, when he was at Duke, and they had Nolan Smith and all the younger guys, and Nolan was taking his spot simultaneously. He's trying to like gather the momentum and be the guy again, and he's forcing stuff, and it's not even sad to see. It's just I don't know. I kind of want to hear what K thinks. I wish K would bench him just to see what would happen, but he never will. He loves him too much.
You know what K? We know what Kay thinks. Kay said after the St. John game that
disgusting.
We didn't play basketball the first 32 minutes worthy of our program. It was disgusting, really. That was the quote he gave us, Tate. Coach K said,
you know what I really hate? Well, you know what really grinds my gears? When coaches they go into a post game and they say we played disgusting or they played disgusting basketball. Like it has nothing to do with him.
Coaching. It was never
nothing to do with coaching.
It was never like I got 5 first-round picks on my team and I'm coaching against a guy who literally does not want to coach basketball and just wants to be like a famous ex-NBA player in New York City and live in New York City and get paid $1 million.
Yes,
and
of course.
They have not. They are 0-11. They are on an 11-game losing streak, and I got outcoached and beat. But I'm gonna just go ahead and blame it on my players. Like you can't. I don't know. This is why you and I talk about Duke so much. Is because of bullshit like this. Like I honestly don't hate Duke at all. But you have to call this out. You have to call out Coach K doing this because it's not so much that he's doing. Like if Stallings did this, we'd laugh and be like, awesome, that's on brand. That's Kevin Stallings. We love this. But this is not on brand for Coach K. He's the leader of men. He's the guy who does it the right
brotherhood.
way. He's going into other locker rooms and giving pep talks to other players and like this guy, everybody he touched, he's got the Midas touch. Like if this man touches you on the shoulder, you will become a better human being because Coach K is just the greatest person on earth. And then he pulls bullshit like this where he just like listen, the players weren't playing hard, obviously. They obviously sucked, but I don't know. You have guys that didn't even see the court for Duke that would be by far the best player at St. John's. And that's just not a place where you can pass the blame off on your players. Like maybe do it behind closed doors. Take away their whatever. Take your D off their chest. or whatever, however we phrase it. But like publicly at a press conference, like you can't come out like the way you handle that, Tate, is you come out and you say, I sucked. I screwed this up. Chris Mullen coached a hell of a game. They have a great program, etc. And then that's it. And you move on, and then you go tear a new asshole for your players.
That's what I was saying. If I'm Chris
Mullen,
Mullen, I go into that press conference and I see what he says about my team. He gave no credit to anything that they did.
By the way,
it's sort of like the Dylan Brooks thing when they lost to Oregon. He didn't say anything great about Dylan Brooks. He just kind of was like, I can't believe the kid acted that way, and then tried to act like he didn't say anything to him. Like Pons, I know he didn't say anything to Pons, but Pons probably just got himself drafted, right? I mean, the way he played against Duvall, at least got himself in the conversation on a national landscape and had this amazing game. And no one.
This would happen in the NCAA tournament for sure. If this happens in the NCAA tournament, he's for sure getting drafted. He's getting the Derek Williams bump where you take it at Duke and you get the, your draft stock just soars because you killed Duke in the NCAA tournament. Anyway, let's move on. So we already talked about Oklahoma State, Kansas a little bit. I'm not really sure what else needs to be added except like just to kind of maybe briefly touch on the Big 12 race. Kansas is now tied with Texas Tech at 7-3.
Yep.
We did bring up Texas Tech, what they have going there. Just revisit it, Tate, really quickly. Are you worried about the Kansas Big 12 regular season title streak?
In a word, no.
No. Yeah, me neither. So the reason people are sort of worried is Kansas still has to go to Texas Tech, and Texas Tech beat Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse. So, I mean, if you're a guy who likes using logic, you would say Texas Tech's probably going to beat Kansas in Lubbock. They're then going to have a game advantage, and then it's going to be very hard for Kansas to dig out of that hole. But the Big 12 has taught us, Tate, this year that there's no predicting anything that's going to happen. So I don't know. I think Kansas is going to be fine too. But
I do too.
It's interesting. That'd be wild if Texas Tech, this is a 14-year streak, 13-year streak, whatever it is, whatever we're calling it, and it gets snapped by freaking Texas Tech of all schools. That would be awesome. That would be just so perfect.
It'd be perfect for the people of Lubbock who just took a beating earlier on audio abuse by Mark Titus, but now they're back and we're saying good things about him. So hopefully they can figure it out. If we're talking about the Big 12, can we just go ahead and talk about the great Trae Young debate and where we stand?
Who? Who's he?
Never heard of him?
Who's he?
Who's this guy? Trae Old? Trae Young is, renowned as the National Player of the Year. We called him the National Player of the Year not too long ago. We were all in on Trae Young early in December. We said that you had to watch him. He was must-watch TV. He was leading the country in assists and points per game. He's everywhere. He's hitting threes. He's compared to Steph Curry. And then the media machine called up to Trae Young. They're covering everything he does. They have these trackers during the game giving you his points updates. They got little like fun facts popping up like it's a VH1 bubble chat from back in the 90s. It's so much Trae Young content. We're just completely overwhelmed at this point. And I ask you, Mark Titus, do you still love Trae Young?
Yes, absolutely. Trae, I love you. Call me later. We'll talk about this. We can save your public image. ESPN is trying to do you dirty. ESPN showing the Trae Young stat tracker. So I'm gonna start there. I'm gonna start there, Tate. For those not in the know, ESPN has started a thing where they show above the score Trae Young stats in real time as the game is going on for every Oklahoma game. This is their new thing. They're beating Trae Young into the ground just in general. I mean, every halftime segment of every game is like, let's give a Trae Young update. What is Trae Young up to? As you said, it's bleeding over into other sports. They're talking about Trae Young so much, it's almost like they're watching golf. Like the example you gave where a guy is lining up a putt and he's like, if he sinks this, it'd be like Trae Young range. Is sort of the point that we've arrived at. I'm going to defend the ESPN little graphic where they show the stats because I'll be honest, I find myself, before they started doing that, I would find myself watching Oklahoma games and pulling up the app on my phones, wondering how many points and assists he has because, I mean, it's just an incredible story. I mean, I've done the rant before. I've already done the rant about bitching about why is ESPN talking so much about this generational talent who's doing things that no one in 100+ years of college basketball has ever done. It doesn't make any sense. It makes total sense why they're doing this. I totally get that it's overkill. But at the same time, like the graphics fine. I don't know. I see it both ways, but it doesn't bother me one bit. I think more people are like upset because this seems to be. I think more people are upset with the implication that ESPN has arrived at this point where this is just what they're going to do every year is latch onto guys like this. Because it certainly happened with Ben Simmons. It happened a little bit with Lonzo last year, although partly that was mostly because of his dad just being a loudmouth. But I think that might be why people are upset, is because it's not this specific instance of praising Trae Young. It's more like next year we already know that there's going to be next year they're going to do it with Zion Williamson or something, and we're just going to keep doing this every year, and that's the annoying part. But if you look at it in a vacuum, I mean, the guy's incredible. I don't know how, like, he's by far the most entertaining player. He's a soft-spoken kid. Like, he's not done anything bad to anybody. He turns the ball over a little too much, but like I don't understand how people hate him. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm very much still in on Trae Young. I know that you're not. I know that's where you're going with this, Tate. So, go ahead. Say what you want to say, so I can chirp back at you.
No, I'm not going to go. The only reason that I say that I have a problem with Trae Young is what I've already said on this podcast, which is it has nothing to do with Trae Young. It has to do with us. It has to do with the journalists. It has to do with the media. It has to do with the common fan and the way that he is not only represented and portrayed to us, but the way that he is covered and discussed, where everything comes back to Trae Young. You cannot watch an Oklahoma basketball game without Trae Young literally getting single shots after every single thing that happens on the floor. And the thing that's frustrating to me was they were playing this game against West Virginia last night, right? And we got this guy, Tate, who I adore and love, and I think he is the menace from Mali. He's got 6 brothers. I wish all the Kanates were on Huggy Bear's team right now. He had this ridiculous block last night. He goes up and does the volleyball swats with 2 hands, which we've mentioned before on the podcast. He has the game-winning play last night. He strips Trae Young at the end of this game, and it leads to West Virginia winning the game. He goes one-on-one guarding Trae Young and wins the game one-on-one playing defense. Mm-hmm. He is a complete defensive juggernaut. And the entire time I'm watching this game, instead of talking about like, holy hell, Tate just jumped up and almost killed Kadeem Latin, I'm talking about Trae Young could be the first player to score 32 points with no assist. You know? Yeah. And that's just the whole game is like this whole Trae Young narrative. Yeah. And I don't think that he wants it to be that way. I'm not saying it's his fault at all. I'm just saying the way that it's talked about, it's so annoying because he's just enjoyable to watch play. We don't have to analyze every single thing he does. We don't have to rewatch every single shot he takes. We don't have to do a Trae Young shot chart update. We don't have to do a Trae Young, hockey assist update. We don't need to do all this. He doesn't want that. You can tell it's affecting him. And even last night in the broadcast, Fran Fraschilla is like, I can tell Trae, I've known Trae for a few years. He's not having fun right now. I can tell he's not having a good time. He's bearing a lot of weight on his shoulders. After the game, he looked really stressed out. They lost their 7th game of the season. They're now 6-5 in the Big 12. And we're just putting too much on him right now, and I don't want him to get bogged down and become Lonzo, where he has almost no emotions and he doesn't get to have fun because everything is scrutinized. So that's my Trae Young thing. Right. It's not that I hate him; I hate the system. Yeah, or how about Javon Carter shut him down in 2 games? You know, they didn't even talk about that. Like Javon Carter's been in college basketball for the past 40 years. Like, can we get something? Can we talk about him a little bit? It's just crazy.
I want to offer some sort of resistance because I don't want to join the witch hunt where it's like ESPN. Everyone hates ESPN, and that's the cool thing to do. And listen, I'll hate it. ESPN fired me. They shut down Grantland. Rest in peace. Grantland was the old Big East of websites. People forget. Just the greatest thing that ever existed, Tate. That's where journalism got its start. It's where a lot of people say journalism died when Grantland died. So
you mean Grantland Rice, right?
ESPN.
The actual sports writer.
Yeah, right. So listen, I'm just as upset with ESPN. I'm all for piling on ESPN stuff, but just this idea that like ESPN should not be talking about the most exciting college basketball player, maybe of all time. If you don't want to get that crazy with it, he's certainly doing statistical things that haven't been done ever. So. I don't know that part, but you make a good point. They should still show love to other people. If they can find a way to do both, keep it going. That's what I say. So, you want to get to some shout outs and wrap this thing up?
Let's do it.
All right. First shout out, most important shout out, the Washington Huskies, who we should have talked about the game, but Washington fans probably upset we didn't talk about the game. They beat Arizona, Tate. Last second shot, buzzer beater. They not only did that, they beat Arizona State. They have now they swept Arizona schools this weekend. Mike Hopkins, former Boeheim protege, he was the Syracuse coach in waiting, has beaten Arizona, who one of the probably 3 or 4 most talented teams in college basketball in terms of just raw talent on the roster.
Yep.
Beat Kansas, who might be a 1 seed. They beat Kansas in Kansas City. And they beat Arizona State, who was ranked 3rd in the country at one point and might be a 3 seed in the NIT by the time the season's over, but was number 3 in the country at one point. So, shout out to Washington. Washington is back. Washington basketball is back. They fired Lorenzo Romar. They drag his carcass back to Seattle, and then they beat his ass again when he comes back as the assistant coach of Arizona. Did him dirty that way. But shout out to Washington. Something exciting going on there.
And good for Mike Hodgins.
Although I will say, like,
he outsourced the zone to the West Coast, and now Syracuse looks lost without him there, with Boeheim running everything. So I think it was big for his whole thing to prove that he was the mastermind behind the zone a little bit lately.
I want to quickly say, though, to pump the brakes, a lot of schools on your first-year coaches that are doing really, really well and you're very excited about, and like you see something – like this is a tale as old as time. Is the first year coach comes in and he's just different. I mean, there's like an excitement around the program. It's like, oh, this guy's not like the shitty coach we had last year. I like this guy. This guy's different. And you get like really excited and you buy in too much and you start doing the thing where IU beats. I know this wasn't the first year, but IU beats Kentucky and they make the "We're Back" shirts for Tom Crean in 2012, which was like 5 years into his reign. But the point still stands. Like people get so excited about first year coaches,
yes.
And I just like be excited, but just like kind of also pump the brakes a little bit. Like Arizona State fans are kind of let them kind of show you the way where it's like, you know. Every now and then the coach will do cool things, but then maybe kind of have your slide, and he's not quite the savior you thought he was. But having said that, Chris Holtmann, obviously the savior at Ohio State, obviously going to revolutionize the program. But all the other first year coaches, I mean, Tate, all the other first year coaches.
Absolutely. Can I do a shout out for Bruce Pearl?
Please do.
Which is tough to say in these times, but we should say Auburn basketball having a great season. I know a lot of people have been upset that we haven't quite talked about them enough. I know we mentioned the FBI stuff, obviously, but the basketball has been great.
Yes.
And Bruce Pearl, I just want to shout out because it's called deflection and it's genius. He said, as I've said from the very beginning, first of all, it's my responsibility. It's on my watch. They lost their eligibility, at least for this portion of their careers. We're talking about Purifoy and Wiley, the 2 guys that were dismissed from the program, but they're still doing a great job and having a great season. But I just thought it was awesome that Bruce Pearl would accept all responsibility while also not taking any responsibility, which I thought was really well done. So congratulations. That's worth a shout out for me.
I take all responsibility, and like you see the reporters in the press conference, like, "Oh shit, is he? So Bruce, are you resigning?" He's like, "What? Resign?"
He's like, "I got a scrimmage in 20 minutes."
Are you kidding me? No, listen, I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm taking responsibility. So you can print it in the headline, you dumbass. Yes. Like, I'm not actually taking responsibility.
Put it in the headline and leave it there. What do you think's
going on here? My God. How dare you suggest I actually take responsibility for this stuff?
Yes.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, Auburn is playing well. I'm sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop with Auburn, and I've been waiting all season. It's not happening.
I know.
And
I tried to say
Auburn
that.
might be a 1 seed, yeah.
This guy on Twitter has been very upset with me about the lack of Auburn talk, and I thought it was a Charles Barkley burner account, but I don't think it is now. But he was pointing out about all the great things they've done this year and how everyone wants to dismiss them because of the FBI investigation. And it was basically just because we thought eventually they would hit the wall, just like Arizona State did. But they haven't, and they're going to be worth talking about. So we will keep our eye on Auburn. I promise I will.
I have a few other shout outs. So I have a trifecta of announcer tropes I want to shout out. It's number one, it's almost time for the bubble is historically weak talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's
my favorite. That's
the stuff we're about to get. We're about to get a thing where all the people are looking at the bubble and they're like, damn, is this the worst bubble we've ever had? It feels like all the teams are like 19 and 13. Like, this is bad. What is going on? And they, for some reason, everyone has a terrible memory and forgets that this literally happens every year where the teams are on you know why the teams are on the bubble, Tate? Because they suck. And they suck. The bubble teams suck every year. But it's still going to happen this year. I guarantee it. People are going to talk about how this is the historically weak bubble and anything could happen. Anybody could get in because the bubble is just so bad this year. So I want to shout out to that. I also want to shout out to flu season. West Virginia, when they lost their like 4 or 5 or whatever it was, they were on that slide, and now they've kind of bounced back. News breaks that 5 guys on West Virginia were battling the flu, and maybe that's what was going on. Maybe that's why they sucked. And we can throw those games out, Tate, because it was the flu. It happened last night in the West Virginia-Oklahoma game. They said Trae Young, maybe he had no assists because he had the flu. Maybe that's why he finished with 1 assist.
Well, he didn't want to spread the germs.
Holly Rowe was like, I don't want to speculate, but it's the flu, and that's why he's not playing well. Nice. She's like, he just doesn't look like himself on the sidelines over there. So, but yeah, the first time I became woke to this move was when Wisconsin did it in 2014, the first year of their back-to-back Final Fours. That first Final Four year they start 16-0 on the season. They then lose at Indiana, and this was a big loss because Tom Crean could never beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin was his kryptonite, and it like every Wisconsin-Indiana game, you knew Wisconsin was going to win. And then Wisconsin's 16-0 and loses at Assembly Hall, and everyone's like, what the hell's going on? How is this happening? And then Wisconsin proceeds to then lose 5 of the 6 in that stretch, and then we find out they have the flu, and that's what so it didn't count. It didn't actually count. And then I was like, oh, I see what they're doing there. You just suck for a little bit and say you have the flu.
Yes. Boom.
So I wanted to shout that out. And then the third thing is, now that the Super Bowl's over, we have the Oscars coming up, Tate, and it's almost time for the every time a guy flops, the man, give that guy an Oscar. He should be nominated for that one. Grayson Allen for snapping his head back on that layup. Give him an Oscar. Get it, folks? Because the Oscars are coming up next week.
Because he's an actor. Yeah,
and he's an actor on that play.
Of course.
So I just wanted to shout out those tropes. That's all.
I want to do one more.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got one more shout out. Shout out Clemson basketball. They've had a great little run here. They're now ranked 15 in the nation, and they also made the YouTube TV commercial. I don't know if you've seen this commercial. It's with Draymond Green. He opens it up and he says, "I'm a warrior off the court, but I'm also like a warrior and trying to find games to stream on the internet." And he does this whole little rant, but in the actual streaming thing, it is a play from a Clemson basketball game at Clemson against North Carolina. And when I saw that the first time, I was like, oh my God, Zion's definitely going to Clemson, because this is a nice way for them to plug. We have a national reach with our basketball program, but obviously I was wrong about that. But shout out to Clemson basketball. They're having a nice little swoon period. And shout out to Brad Brownell for figuring it all out. Should we get to closeouts?
Well, hold on. I have 2 more. I have 2 not to brags. I have 2 not to brag shout outs.
Please.
One, I saw Sam Alford, Steve's dad, at a cafeteria in Mooresville, Indiana yesterday. For the Hoosiers that are listening, I went to Gray Brothers Cafeteria. It's a world famous cafeteria. Tate, think of like basically Golden Corral, but if it was like family owned and like handmade foods. It's supposed to be like your grandma's cooking, and it's just this local spot that's like legendary. So my mom and I go there. Like every time I come back to Indiana, I try to go grab a meal there. And a guy walks in with a UCLA polo and a UCLA jacket, and lo and behold, it's Sam Alford. And I go up and talk to him, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Get the hell out of my face! I'm trying to eat some chicken and noodles here." But it's the year that I bring it up because you and I just can't escape the Alfords, man. Like we saw the
whole family at the UCLA game.
We saw the whole family. I actually brought that up to him. I was like, "Hey, I saw you at the Cincinnati game, like at the press conference. We were sitting by each other." And he's like, "Cool." Cool, man. Good story. And then I sit by UCLA in New Orleans when I was the Marlins man for the day at that event, and I'm by the bench, and then now I'm running into him in Mooresville, Indiana, in the middle of nowhere at Gray Brothers Cafeteria. So I want to give a shout out there. And then also shout out to Greg Oden, my good buddy. I went to dinner with him on Friday night. I was at a bar. You actually called me when I was out to dinner with Oden. and he listens to the podcast. So I'm going to do the same thing to him that I did to John Diebler in the last pod. Greg, text me about this, or else I know you're full of shit and you don't actually listen to the pod. But Tate calls me on Friday night when I'm out to dinner with Greg, and the first thing Greg says, I go, Greg, I got to step away. Tate's calling me, and he goes, ask Tate why Carolina didn't get punished for the fake class thing, because I still don't understand that. So I wanted to do that right now and say that Greg is ready to throw shade at you. But I said, save it for the pod. So he's going to come on, and he's basically, he's going to interview you, Tate. He wants to talk about the UNC scandal that you never want to talk about again. But
I'm here. I'm all ready for that. Please, Greg. I
go to the bar with Greg, and we have dinner and everything, and we're having some beers, and there is a life-size Connect 4 thing. I don't know if you've ever seen these.
Yeah, of course. They're awesome.
Yeah, like the big blow-up Connect 4 thing. So we start playing Connect 4. We must have played 100 games. I beat Greg 100 times. But at one point in the night, like early on when we first started playing, I beat Greg Oden in Connect 4 in 4 moves, Tate. In 4 moves. I literally played 4 things, and I got Connect 4 immediately. And he stood there and just like looked like he saw a ghost. And he's like, what the hell just happened? And so I wanted to shout out Greg and throw him under the bus and say that Greg Oden kind of sucks at Connect 4.
Yeah, you have a low center of gravity, so you had an advantage.
That's it.
I got your back, Greg.
That's it. That's my shout outs.
Let's do closeouts. We got a couple games to talk about. First off, let's mention the 3-on-3 announcement. We have talked about this a little bit on the podcast. We are working. We were like on the committee for the 3-on-3 tournament that will be in San Antonio. It's for all the seniors in college basketball. But we just found out, Mark Titus, through the grapevine, that we will actually be analysts and hosts and a part of the whole broadcast.
Wait, what?
Yes, down in San Antonio.
Your boys.
So if you're going to the Final Four, Mark Titus and myself, we will be down there. We will be in San Antonio. We will obviously be doing podcasts for The Ringer, but we will also be hosting the 3-on-3 tournament. We'll have player interviews, coach interviews. I don't know. They're going to ask us to do a bunch of stuff. We're going to plan out some funny stuff. We're hoping that we can do some bag-related things if all goes according to plan. But we're super excited for it. And I know for me and you, being able to go to the Final Four for the first time together will be quite a time.
It's going to be great. We should get a Christmas ornament together. We should get like airbrush T-shirts to say like our first Final Four together.
Yes.
Yeah, Tate and I are hosting it. We're hosting the 3-on-3 tournament. We are going to be broadcasting the 3-on-3 tournament. Tate, Frazier, and Mark Titus, your boys, are the 3-on-3 guys. Dropped the bag. They're fans of bag dropping. They rolled through. They said, we want the 2 greatest college basketball podcasters in the game today. And that's what happened, Tate. So you and I are going to be down there. We're so excited for this. We are going to make an absolute mockery out of this. We are not going to be invited back next year.
Nope. And
it's going to be a one-time thing. We're one and dones. I'm very excited. But yeah, the 3-on-3 thing, for those who don't know, look it up. It's basically 3-on-3 with all the senior players. We couldn't be more excited for this. It's going to be awesome. So
we've made a lot of promises on this podcast about us doing certain things and going certain places. Yeah. This is actually happening. This is
actually happening.
We have signed on.
We signed our signatures in blood. And this is 100% happening. That we are not getting Memphis on this one.
Yes.
We will be in San Antonio.
We will not be Memphis.
We will be at the Alamo. We will be trying to find the basement of the Alamo with Pee Wee Herman. It is going to be awesome. So, in the meantime, games to watch, Tate. Xavier's at Butler tonight. Wait, Xavier at Butler? That's in Indy tonight?
Yes, you should go.
And I'm in Indy. Why am I not going to this game?
Please call someone. Yes, go figure it out. Get there.
I gotta leave. Xavier at Butler tonight at 6:30. Fox Sports 1. Butler's actually favored in this game. I saw. So be an interesting game. Ohio State at Purdue on Wednesday. We briefly talked about this. In all honesty, maybe I'm emotionally hedging whatever the words are. I don't really know how to describe that, but I really do think Ohio State is going to lose by a lot, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I don't know. I'm preparing myself for a very bad, because Purdue is like so jacked. I've seen way too many Purdue fans looking forward to this game.
Yep.
I was kind of hoping they would look past us and get excited for Michigan State on Saturday, but they're not. Like Purdue is all about like, man, this is the big game. We can clinch the Big Ten, and I just don't see this going well for Ohio State.
You're going to be.
That's Wednesday.
You got Haas and Harms in that one. Those are the 2 guys to watch out for. I don't know if Ohio State can match with those 2 guys. Yep.
And then the big one, Tate. Duke at Carolina, Thursday at 8. ESPN.
What
do you have to say?
In Chapel Hill.
Quickly.
We have Seventh Woods coming back.
Give me the quick pitch.
Seventh Woods is coming back. The seventh coming has arrived. And I just want to remind people, because a lot of people are talking about this game as if Duke is the juggernaut in the series, especially since Roy came back. Here's some stats for you. UNC, 3 titles, 5 Final Fours, 8 Elite Eights since Roy got back to UNC. Duke in that time period, 2 titles, 3 Final Fours, 4 Elite Eights in that span. So please stop talking about that. You're completely incorrect. It's going to be a great game, great rivalry game. Definitely not the third best game of the night. I'm excited to see Trey Duvall versus Seventh Woods. That'll be fun. I'm excited to see Grayson Allen taking on Joel Berry, 2 guys that played together on the same AAU team down in Florida. Senior year, can't believe those guys have both been there in this rivalry 4 years. And I would really watch out for Luke May having a Hansbrough-like game where he puts up 30 and becomes local lore of North Carolina basketball.
No bullshit.
We'll
I think Carolina's going to win because Luke May is going to cook that night. He's just going to be cooking all night at the high post. I think Duke's going to go zone.
I love it.
I'm going with that one.
I love it.
I think that's what's going to happen. My quick thought is Zion Williamson, just thinking about him and how he had Carolina and Duke in his final schools. Can we please get one recruit? I just want to see this once in my life where a recruit says, I'm going to wait to make my decision until this game is played and whoever wins is where I'm going.
Yeah, that'd be
How
awesome.
awesome would that be?
That would be amazing.
Like, wouldn't that be the greatest thing in college basketball history if Zion Williamson just said, whoever wins Carolina Duke game on Thursday is where I'm going? Holy shit, that would be insane.
People would lose their minds, and it would be great. That's what we need for fanfare.
UCLA is at Arizona after the Carolina Duke game, so that's another great rivalry, the West Coast version of Carolina Duke, if you will. UCLA at Arizona. So check that one out, too. Anything else, Tate, before we wrap this up?
Nope. Please, God, let Seventh Woods be great. That's all I can hope for.
All right. Please, God, let Kata Bates D up. Just go absolutely nuts in Mackey Arena and then take a shit in one of those beautiful bathrooms and not flush it. That's what I'm hoping for on Wednesday. Have fun, guys. We'll be back Friday talking about all these great games. In the meantime, save the crew.
Thanks again to Hotel Tonight. I can't tell you how much I have been loving Hotel Tonight, Titus. Hotel Tonight helps you book amazing deals at great hotels, and even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can actually book up to 100 days in advance in top destinations and up to a week in advance everywhere else. They work with cool top-rated hotels and don't feature those long, endless lists of options you have to scroll through. Instead, they show you a select list of the best deals at the best hotels at any given time. So start scoring amazing deals at incredible hotels. Download the Hotel Tonight app now. Don't you need this for when you come out here?
Yeah, I do. I should use the Hotel Tonight app. I was thinking, like, our top destinations, does that include Mooresville, Indiana, where the home
Yes.
of Gray Brothers Cafeteria?
Of course.
Do you think that's a top destination?
Absolutely. That's where everyone is flying to this winter. Get me to Mooresville.